Assalamualaikum, ma'am.
Walaikum Assalam, Hajra. We'll wait for your classmates to join in for a few minutes and then we can start our class today.
Okay, ma'am.
Assalamu alaikum, ma'am.
Walaikum Assalam, bete. We'll wait for your classmates to join in just for few minutes and then we can start today's lecture. I hope I'm audible to both of you. I can see Hiba and Hajra in the class right now. So we'll wait for few minutes and then we can start.
Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, I think that's enough of waiting. We have waited for almost 7 to 8 minutes. We can start. I'm trying to record it, so if your classmates are not able to join in time, they can join it later and they can listen to the audio and the video that I'm trying to record later on. Today we are going to talk about another poet. Like I told you, on campus we were talking about I think we talked about My Last Touches by Robert Browning on campus, and you were given an assignment to do so. And I hope you have done that assignment and you were able to successfully understand the reference to the context thing, that how to do and how to go about it. Today we are going to talk about um, okay, please, can you announce in the classroom that your classmates are only supposed to join through their original name, not any other name? I can see somebody named Mahmood Awan trying to get in. I cannot allow them because I don't have that student. तो अगर आपको पता है ये कौन है तो उनसे कहे अपना ओरिजिनल नेम यूज कर कर एंट्री ले। चलिए मैं आपके व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप में भी बता देती हूँ। But to make sure that when you are trying to join in, you should join in through your original name. I don't know who is Mahmood Awan, so you will not be allowed to come in. Use your original official name that I know of. आपके कोई घर का नाम है तो बेटे I don't know that. Use your official name to get into the online class. ठीक है, चलिए ये मैंने शेयर कर दिया है. So I was referring to the poet that I told you we are going to do today, that is Alfred Lord Tennyson. I told you specifically that this poet is somebody who can be categorized as somebody who is part of Romantic era as well as definitely part of Victorian age as well. On campus, we talked about that how Victorian age is full of it was defined as the best of best times and the worst of worst times because there was too much, too many things were going on: urbanization, globalization, technological advancements, diseases were there, and much more. And there was also a time, a perspective where, sorry, people were very much drifting away from their religion or religiosity, so that sociologically, economically, psychologically, and on the basis of religion, many changes were there in one way or another. And we talked about My Last Touches and meeting at night and parting at morning. तो हमने last touches की ये बात कर ली थी. Now today I'm going to share something about Lord Tennyson. I have uploaded material related to two poems by him. One is The Lotus Eater, and the other one is Tears, Idle Tears. So today we are going to talk about Tears, Idle Tears, so that we can move forward to the second poem. We'll try to finish or complete both poems today so that we are ready for our final terms. I have uploaded three possible interpretations that are easily available that you can read, of course, but we'll talk about one thing that is a unit that I have shared with you on Google Classroom, right? Let me share the screen with you so that you know where am I reading from and what you need to incorporate while you're going to study. Give me a minute. I'm going to attach it. Meanwhile, please ask your classmates to join in with your official name only, not the names that they have been given in their houses, because I don't know कि उनके घर में उनको क्या कहा जाता है. तो अपना नाम इस्तेमाल करना important है. चलो. ओके, ये जो ब्लॉक स्टडी है जो मैं आपसे शेयर करने लगी हूँ स्क्रीन में, इसमें और इररिलेवेंट स्टडीज भी हैं फ्रॉम द सेम पोएट. अगर आप चाहें तो आप उन्हें डेफिनेटली पढ़ सकते हैं. लेकिन हमने जो बात करनी है वो हमने एक ही पोएम की करनी है, दैट इज टीयर्स, एडल टीयर्स. You can see that in this reading we also have been given Victorian age के बारे में, Tennessee की life and works के बारे में. I hope it's visible. Let me try to, yes. And then we have this 16.5 पे Tears, Idle Tears. So let's talk about Tennessee and his life. कि उसकी लाइफ में क्या हुआ और उसके पास क्या important था. Any idea who's Tennessee and anything that you know about Tennessee, Lord Tennessee? कुछ पता हो तो? No? चलो. Lord Tennyson is called a representative poet of the Victorian age. When we say this, we mean that he is one poet in whose works the basic nature of age, its achievements, doubts, and fears are best reflected. So he's one of those poets which are truly Victorian in their perspective. If you remember when we were talking about Robert Browning, I clearly told you about that how his standing was equally appreciated as if he was equal to Lord Tennyson. टेनिसन को इस लिहाज से बहुत वो उर्दू में कहते हैं ना सराहा गया था. As a matter of fact, the Victorian age was an age of great progress and of the consolidation of the powers of England. Naturally, a poet of this age is expected to be full of optimism, but Tennyson could see beyond the political and economic achievements of his time. Like we have talked about, that Charles Dickens told us that it was the best of times and it was the worst of times. So Tennyson was supposed to be full of optimism because बहुत सारी achievements economic front पे और political front पर हो रही थी. But because he was a poet and he was studious and he was very sensitive, poets are mostly very much sensitive in that regard. So therefore, he was able to read beyond what was presented to him apparently. यानी जो ज़ाहरी तौर पे उसको समझ आ रही थी उसके अलावा भी he could read between the lines. He was studiously following the advances of contemporary science and moved Victorian men and women to scrutinize the biblical story of the origin of the creation on rational basis. This instilled first doubts in the realm of religion. हर चीज को रीजनिंग में रैशनल बेसिस पे लाना भी एक art he hai, and that is what he did. Tennyson felt the emotional tremors of the people of his age. His poems document their anxiety, but Tennyson could also instill faith as he himself mastered a personal crisis and remained devoted to creativity. The balance is characteristic of his poetry and is also a great contribution to Victorian age. Then we have something related to Victorian age that we have discussed already. So I'll just read few lines for your revision of it. For example, Queen Victoria was there in 1837 and she introduced such economic and political measures which definitely provided aid to England, and it went on to the zenith of development. There were a lot of developments in terms of technological perspective और cultural perspective. कहीं ना कहीं किसी ना किसी तरह से positively उस पे impact हो रहा था. She did not hesitate in ending the monopoly of merchants. Fair policy was replaced by just the intervention and close scrutiny of market trends by state. So she intervened in all aspects of life and she tried to make it fair for everybody. The major industries of coal, iron, textile, and railway building continued to flourish, right? The rise of limited liability companies was a new thing. It ended the monopoly of one family farms. Monopoly से यहाँ मुराद ये है कि वो जो एक कैपिटलिस्ट पर्सपेक्टिव था ना कि अमीर अमीर होता जा रहा था और गरीब गरीब होता जा रहा था, उसको कम करने के लिए, खत्म करने के लिए she took decisions which were very much beneficial for all kinds of people or all starters of people. These companies were managed by board of directors, but any individual might become a stakeholder. तो वो जो अब जिसमें आजकल वो होता है ना जहाँ पर आप ये बाइनेंस और फाइनेंस इस तरह की जो स्टॉक मार्केटिंग आ चुकी है वो उसने वहां पर स्टार्ट की. द पिक्चर डिड नॉट रिमेन सो ब्राइट फॉर सो लॉन्ग. A series of conflicts jeopardized Victorian peace and prosperities. There were troubles in Canada and India. However, Queen Victoria emerged stronger and her policies proved to be a mixture of toughness and liberality. The assertion of her independence and fairness is evident in this. The presence of such a wise queen, together with long strides in commerce and industry, made the Victorian age one of the best ages for the English people. क्योंकि जिस किस्म की development लोगों को चाहिए थी, middle class को, poor classes को, they were getting those. They enjoyed peace at home. Their children got the best of education. They had a healthy social life. They worked hard. They had a grasp of affairs of the world. They were constantly modifying technology for better communication and facilities. And they remained deeply religious. Yet, the most serious crisis of Victorian furies occurred in the realm of religion. So सब कुछ अच्छा चल रहा था, लेकिन आपको पता है कि जो चीज़ बहुत कंटिन्यूसली बहुत स्टडी भी चल रही हो, उसको भी डेफिनेटली there could be some origins that can disturb that continuity. So when Charles Lyell's Principles of Geology 1830 में आया और Charles Darwin's The Origin of Species आया, तो it definitely altered all the scenario. A storm rose and shook Christianity by roots. Christianity was very much prevalent, like we have just discussed, but definitely जो conflict आ चुका था, उस conflict को Christianity में भी penetrate किया गया और Christianity was very much in pieces, we can say. The Victorian intellectuals and writers, poets, and novelists could not ignore the scientific basis of the theory of evolution propounded by Darwin. Fate was tinged with doubt, and attitudinal change had occurred, but best expressed by Tennyson. There remains more faith in honest doubt, believe me, than in half the creeds. In the view of such spiritual crisis, it would not be easy to sum up the Victorian age in such a manner. There are many pointers that we need to discuss further, but there was an undercurrent of sick hurry and divided aims. Then there is an introduction to Tennyson and life and works. He was born in Lincolnshire and his father was a rector. It is said that rectory had an enchanting landscape that molded the aesthetic taste of Tennyson. His father had an academic bent of mind. He made the young boy learn Latin and Greek classic seriously. So Tennyson came to Cambridge University and he got his education from legendary educational institutions. In Cambridge, Tennyson became intimate with Arthur Harlan, the son of eminent historian. Okay. Late on, Mr. Harlem was engaged to Tennyson's sister. He died, however, later on, Tennyson had already written poems that won distinction. तो इस point तक वो काफी हद तक फेमस हो चुका था, बहुत हद तक वो important category में entry ले चुका था. The fact that Tennyson could transcend his personal losses and think in a systematic way about the larger concerns and issues of his age is of singular importance. देखिए उसकी पर्सनल क्राइसिस था जिससे उसको किसी किस्म की इंटीमेशन हुई या किसी किस्म की अट्रैक्शन फील हुई, वो उसी की सिस्टर के साथ एंगेज था, बहुत कुछ पर्सनल लेवल पे हुआ, कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स अराइज हुए, बट ही न्यू फॉर अ फैक्ट दैट ही हैड टू कंट्रीब्यूट टू अ लार्जर concept and he did it anyway. It gives Tennyson's poetry a lasting appeal. The classical training that his father imparted to him remained a principal stimulus to Tyson's poetic life. He's one of the poets who chose a number of medieval and Greek legends as subjects for his works. But in all his work, he tried to interpret the life of his times. So remember, whenever we are talking about poetry written by Lord Tennyson, you'll see that he'll time and again talk about what was happening in Victorian age and what impacted him so dearly and in so intensely that his write-up is very much influenced by it. Then some of the major works are enlisted over here, poems chiefly lyrical in 1830, The Lady of Shalott and other poems, The Princess in Memoriam, Maud and other poems, and etc. तो ये इसने he died at the age of 83. तो इस पूरे span में 1830 से लेके 1888 तक he has written a lot of poems. Now the Splendor Falls तो हमने नहीं पढ़नी, वो आपके कोर्स में नहीं है, लेकिन अगर आप चाहें तो आपको पढ़ लेना चाहिए. It will definitely help you understand him as a poet. However, we are going to talk about Tears, Idle Tears. Poem देखते हैं पहले. Look at the poem. Tears, idle tears, I know not when they mean what they mean, tears from the depth of some divine despair. Rise in the heart and gather to the eyes in looking on the happy autumn fields, and thinking of the days that are no more, fresh as the first beam glittering on a sail that brings our friends up from the underworld, sad as the last which reddens over one that sinks with all we love below the verge. So sad, so fresh, the days that are no more. आप देख रहे हैं कि पहला स्टेंजा भी that are no more पे खत्म हो रहा है और सेकंड स्टेंजा भी. Sad and strange as in dark summer dawns, the earliest pipe of half awakened birds, to dying ears when onto dying eyes, the casement slowly grows a glimmering square. So sad, so strange, the days that are no more. फर्स्ट स्टेंजा की लाइन देखें, एंड थिंकिंग ऑफ द डेज दैट आर नो मोर, सो सैड सो फ्रेश द डेज दैट आर नो मोर, सो सैड सो स्ट्रेंज that days that are no more. So definitely, evidently, we get an idea that he's dwelling in the past and he's talking about what has been lost, and he's being nostalgic and a little sad about it. And he's using these repetitions of the verse, which is the days that are no more. He's emphasizing that how these things have gone, once gone forever, and they are not back. Dear as remembered kisses after death, and sweet as those by hopeless fancies fend. On lips that are for others, deep as first love, and wild with all regret. Oh, death in life, the days that are no more. Last stanza is important. We'll talk about its interpretation in a while. यहाँ पर आप देख सकते हैं कि एक ग्लॉसरी दी हुई है जहां पर वो आपको बता रहे हैं कि यहाँ पर जो ऑटम है, फॉर एग्जाम्पल, इन लुकिंग ऑन द हैप्पी ऑटम फील्ड्स एंड थिंकिंग ऑफ द डेज दैट आर नो मोर, autumn feels full of ripening corn in autumn. Glittering matlab shining. The underworld, the place under the earth where people are believed to go when they die. So ये वो वाला underworld नहीं है जो Gen Zs और आजकल की जनरेशन समझती है जिसमें गैंगस्टर्स होते हैं. This underworld represents the world that is under the earth when people are buried. Glimmering is shining again. So glittering and glimmering, similar kind of words have been used over here. And then casement is a window. Similes कौन सी है? Fresh as the first beam glittering on the sail, sad as the last which reddens over one, sad and strange as dark in dawns, dear as remembered kisses after that. Similes क्या होते हैं बेटे? When you're trying to correlate two things by using as and like, जैसे हम कहते हैं she's as fresh as a month of May, he's as brave as a loin. तो इस तरह से जब as and like हम use करते हैं तो वो similes होती हैं. All these similes are quite unusual. They do not compare like objects. There is a comparison between a state of mind and a natural phenomena or a scene. Fresh, sad, strange, dear are adjectives which have been consecrized in this way. Then discussion is given, जो हम बात कर लेते हैं. अब यहाँ पर tears, idle tears का introduction लिखा हुआ है. Now let's read the introduction. The popularity of this lyric is the proof of the value of its content, though occurring in a dramatic context and sung by the maid of the princess as a routine duty, it dwells on man's feelings of loss, which is the cause of the flow of tears. Tears expressed a feeling that may be spontaneous, but they may emerge from a powerful emotion that lies suppressed in humdrum life. Any touching sight can, however, bring it on the surface of consciousness and make us cry. Of course, when we try to dwell in the past, अगर हम future के साथ, present के साथ specially चलने से इनकार करते हैं, तो definitely हमें छोटी छोटी बातें bother करेंगी और हम पुरानी बातों को याद करके रोना शुरू कर देंगे. So that is what the poet is trying to highlight over here as well. In The Princess, the maid's song is surprisingly occasioned by the enchanting views of the palace. It must have created a feeling of awe and wonder in the maid also. But instead of bursting into a song that could express the shock of her delight, she chooses to sing a mournful song. The simplicity which she touches on death and separation draw not only a kindred feeling from the listeners, it makes them think of suffering as a vital fact of life. ठीक है, तो ये इसका इंट्रोडक्शन है जहां सिंपली दे आर trying to tell us what we are getting from these lines, that the feelings which we are very much dependent on can make us cry, make us flow with it, make us feel something that is there and that could be inferred and influenced by any other story that might be attached to it. Then discussion देखें. The most arresting phrase in this lyric is divine despair, a paradoxical expression. Normally, despair cannot be linked with anything divine. Despair का मतलब बेटे होता है problem, chaos, tension, conflict. तो despair divine कैसे है, that is the beauty of this poem, right? To do so is to clearly refer to human limitations, and this is what Tennyson does. The past cannot be recaptured. The tears that come to eyes spring from the realization that the happy days cannot be brought back. Why they cannot be brought back? Because her stanza के ending line देखें, and thinking of the days that are no more. So sad, so fresh, the days that are no more. So sad, so strange, the days that are no more. Oh, death in life, the days that are no more. So ये जो बार बार एक realization है, happy days cannot come back, और अगर आ भी जाते हैं तो उस intensity या उसी light में नहीं आते. ठीक है? Sadness became a part of Tennyson's life after the death of Arthur Hallam, who, but Tennyson was not a very lugubrious poet. He was reflective in nature, a person who took interest in philosophy and science. So he was not so subjective after all. After all, he did lose Arthur Hallam, for whom he had feelings, who later on gets engaged to his own sister and everything. But वो इतना subjective और इतना आप कह सकते हैं कि sensitive नहीं था. He understood philosophy and science, and his nature, his poetry's nature definitely reflects that. Naturally, every emotion to him was a subject of not only feeling but of study also. So वो properly आप उसको एक रोमांटिक पोइट की तरह सब्जेक्टिव नहीं कह सकते. वो डेफिनेटली एक लार्जर पिक्चर को कैप्चर करता है अपनी पोएम्स में. I know not what they mean. This line is indicative of the rational tendency that was always active in him. अगर आपको याद हो, जब हम रोमांटिक पोइट्री की बात कर रहे थे तो उसमें हमने बार बार बात की कि कैसे वो सब्जेक्टिव है, उसमें कैसे इंडिविजुअलिस्टिक थॉट प्रोसेस है और बहुत ही पर्सनल है. बट यहाँ पर डेफिनेटली देयर इज अ पर्सनल टच टू इट, बट इट इज ऑल्सो अटैच्ड एंड इन्फ्लुएंस्ड बाय फिलोसफी एंड साइंस behind it. Therefore, Tennyson is one of those legendary poets which are very much celebrated till this date. He makes, therefore, the speaker to understand the emotion behind the tears. You should also notice that the tears have originated from a sight of happy autumn fields. That is, of a seasonal movement that helps crops ripen and grow. It is the scene of richness and abundance that reminds of like days that have slipped away. Again, going into the past. ऑफ कोर्स जब ऑटम सीजन आता है तो उससे पहले स्प्रिंग भी आता है, और स्प्रिंग में जो कुछ हमें ऑफर स्प्रिंग करता है वो ऑटम में पतझड़ का एक मौसम जिसे आप कहते हैं वो आ जाता है. हैप्पीनेस इज लॉक्ड ओनली इन द मेमोरी नाउ. जस्ट लाइक वर्ड्सवर्थ, he is being sad and reminiscent about his past life, that all these beautiful scenarios and sceneries that he has enjoyed over the past years or past seasons, they are there in his head now. They are not actually in the field anymore. Happiness is locked only in the memory now, lingering, of course, as a permanent feeling over which time have no control. So the feeling that is captured in his mind and memory, it is there forever, and it is not going to go away because it has a permanent nature and it has a permanent feeling attached to it on which time cannot have any impact. Then there is a touch of irony in the phrase idle tears. It can be a common sense version of becoming sentimental, but the things that are supposed to cause tears are not so insignificant. This creates a tension which adds to the merit of the poem. Why? Simply because the intellectual effort that is required to understand it makes the sentiment valuable. After the tone has been set, the speaker goes on elaborating the qualities of happy days, which are being thought about. In the first place, they appear to be as fresh as the first sun rays falling on a ship. The freshness of the morning scene on the ship appears to set Tennyson from personal experience of voyages to be more memorable. Memory alone helps a man bring back his friends from the underworld, but it is only not fresh. There is overwhelming sadness when moment of loss is recaptured in totality. Of course, जब हम अपने loved ones को जिनको हमने दफना दिया है, जला दिया है, या जिस भी रिलीजन से जिस तरह से भी उनसे वो दूसरी दुनिया में जा चुके हैं, या वो मर चुके हैं. So we do think about them in a certain way. And when we think about them, of course, we had happy memories with them, we had sad memories with them, and we do have the fact on our hands that the person is no more, of course. So that is the feeling that poet is trying to depict over here, that memory only helps a man bring back his friends in memory from the underworld only, but there is an overwhelming sadness and gloominess attached to it. There is abrupt change in the scene in the last two stanza where the speaker alters the persona from a living person to then one of the that is awaiting death. A dying person's sensitiveness to the music of the birds of the dawn is not lost, but the music seems to have become strange. The consciousness of leaving the world, it is that makes the faculty of sight and hearing rather keener. आपको याद होगा मैंने आपको बताया था कि जो poets होते हैं, they are super sensitive and they usually use human faculties and senses to make their case. And here Tennyson is no different. He is using hearing and the faculty of sight to talk about his conscious efforts to remember the death and the sensitiveness that could be associated with the person who is about to die. The consciousness of leaving the world is that makes the faculty of sight and hearing rather keener. To the dying eyes of big windows of the room seems to have become a glimmering square. The perspective of death continues in the last stanza. The hint that the speaker is thinking not only of days that are no more, but also a beloved who is no more is clear now. The kisses, the tokens of love become painfully sweet. All fancies connected with love acquire a pregnancy now. This, what is death in life, the condition of hopeless separation, has been mentioned over here. There is an appreciation written over here about popular pieces, creative writing. It can be said that they touch universal chord, of course, the theme of love, the theme of death. वो एक universal thematic landscape में आते हैं, so they are not that difficult to understand. Tennyson takes up this very situation in this lyric, in which he develops this very idea of being inconsolable, the idea of being incurable, in incurable unhappiness. What sustains this short poem is a unique blend of argument and feeling. The feeling is justified by argument, by parallels also between the state of mind and the maid that is there, of course, poetic persona, and the speaker, and then the immediate surroundings that are attached to it. So यहाँ पर कुछ questions हैं, वो आप खुद पढ़ सकते हैं. Now I would like to show you or let you listen to the poem itself, कि इसको सुनने में क्या सुनाई देता है. Let me attach a video कि आपको पता चले कि इसको किस तरह से पढ़ा जाता है. Please.
ठंड बढ़ाओ, जिन में आओ.
Tears, idle tears from
Okay, let me attach the video. अब आप इसको सुनेंगे तो आपको पता चलेगा कि इसको कैसे पढ़ा जाता है. Of course, we are second language learners, तो हम जिस तरह से पढ़ते हैं वो थोड़ा सा different होता है. Let's listen to it.
Tears, Idle Tears from
The Princess by Alfred Lord Tennyson. Tears, idle tears, I know not what they mean. Tears from the depth of some divine despair rise in the heart and gather to the eyes in looking on the happy autumn fields and thinking of the days that are no more. Fresh as the first beam glittering on a sail that brings our friends up from the underworld, sad as the last which reddens over one that sinks with all we love below the verge. So sad, so fresh, the days that are no more. Ah, sad and strange, as in dark summer dawns the earliest pipe of half-awakened birds, to dying ears, when unto dying eyes the casement slowly grows a glimmering square, So sad, so strange, the days that are no more. Dear as remembered kisses after death, and sweet as those by hopeless fancy feigned on lips that are for others. Deep as love, deep as first love, and wild with all regret. O death in life, the days that are no more.
Okay, so this is how it was supposed to be read, and it is so beautifully read by Obed Lamb, I think. हाँ, Tom Obed Lamb ने पढ़ा है इसको, so it's good. Now, I would like to show you that how I have arranged your classroom, Google Classroom. वहाँ पर आपको इससे related और possible interpretations भी मिलेंगी. Let me share the screen ताकि आप उसे follow कर सकें. Yes. ये बेटे आपके पास ये आपको 3 लिंक्स शो हो रहे होंगे, राइट? अब ये अटेंशन रिक्वायर्ड बेशक इस तरह से आ रहा है, तो आप इसे क्लिक करोगे ना तो इट विल टेक यू टू नेक्स्ट रीडिंग. वो भी मैं आपसे शेयर कर देती हूँ, वो हो जाएगी ये वाली. यहाँ जाएंगे तो आपको इसकी एक और आसान तरीके से यहाँ लिखी हुई मिलेगी कि इसमें की इंफॉर्मेशन क्या है. सेंट्रल मैसेज इज द नॉस्टैल्जिया is the pain of the lost time and the things that can never be regained. Speaker is unknown, but mostly it is the poetic persona. And of course, it is Tennyson himself. The poetic form of the poem is free verse. Okay? Tears, Idle Tears by Alfred Lord Tennyson reflects Victorian theme of memory and loss, capturing timeless human sorrow and nostalgia. फिर aging, beauty, death, desire, love, nature, ये सब थीम इसमें है. इमोशंस जो ये इवोक करने की कोशिश करती है, दैट इज confusion, grief, hopelessness, loving someone you cannot have, pain, regret, sadness. और टाइम पीरियड जो है वो है 19th century. यहाँ पर इंट्रोडक्शन लिखा हुआ है, यहाँ पर पोएम लिखी हुई है, फिर उसकी समरी है, स्ट्रक्चर है, ये जो हम बात कर चुके हैं. सिंबलिज्म और इमेजरी है, एनालिसिस स्टेंजा वाइज यहाँ पर इसका एनालिसिस लिखा हुआ है. आप इस लिंक से भी पढ़ सकते हैं. यहाँ पर हर वर्ड की पॉसिबल इंटरप्रिटेशन आपको देंगे ताकि आपको पता चले कि एनालिसिस कैसे लिखते हैं. इसमें सिमिलीज, मेटाफर्स, allusions, personification लिखी हुई है. For example, there is a simile in the first line of the second stanza. There is a biblical allusion used in the poem in the word underworld. The poet metaphorically uses the word reddens in the second stanza. तो आप जब जब इनको क्लिक करोगे इसके साथ इसका मीनिंग भी लिखा होगा कि alliteration is a repetition of the sound, allusion is a story or an indirect reference to another reference. Personification is a literary device that refers to the object of human characteristics and whatnot. Symbolism की बात करें और इमेजरी की बात करें तो यहाँ पर सेल, अंडरवर्ल्ड, ये वही वर्ड्स हैं. डार्क समर, ऑटम फील्स, ये सिंबॉलिकली बहुत कुछ रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं. अब देखिए एनालिसिस स्टेंजा बाय स्टेंजा. स्टेंजा 1 is tears, idle tears, I know not what they mean. Tears from the depth of some divine despair rise in the heart and gather to the eyes, in looking on the happy autumn fields, in thinking of the days that are no more. The first line of the speech, the speaker describes how he feels tears in his eyes. He doesn't know what they are, why they are there, and who caused it, and why these tears are being caused. This leads to the description of them being idle tears. जब आपको एक अननोन melancholic फीलिंग आए, आपको समझ ना आ रही हो कि आपको क्यों रोना आ रहा है, तो वो उस स्टेट ऑफ बीइंग को यहाँ पर डिपिक्ट कर रहा है. दैट इज ऑल्सो पिन पॉइंटिंग टुवर्ड्स द वर्ड डिवाइन डिस्पेयर, बिकॉज ही इज नॉट एबल टू कैप्चर दैट ओवरवेलमिंग सैडनेस इन हिज हार्ट कि ये वहाँ क्यों है, माइंड में, हार्ट में, why it is there. The speaker feels something spiritual building up in his soul. It is close to being divine or godlike. Generally, when something is described as divine, it is an angelic, joyful, and glorious reference. This is different though. It is divine despair. तो यहाँ पर बहुत अच्छी इसकी यहाँ से एनालिसिस लिखा हुआ है. आप इसे पढ़ेंगे तो ये वही बात है जो हम बात कर चुके हैं. ठीक है. फिर अगर हम वापस जाएं दोबारा तो इसकी एक और पोएम है जिसकी हमने डिस्कशन करनी है. लेट्स टॉक अबाउट दैट. लेट मी टेक बैक यू टू दिस. अब यहाँ पर हमारे पास लोटस ईटर्स भी है जिसमें इस यूनिट पे हम जाएंगे. ठीक है. यस. इसमें हमारे पास लाइफ्स एंड वर्क्स विक्टोरियन एज, आप वही चीज लिखी होगी जो आपने पढ़नी है. यहाँ पर लोटस ईटर्स के बारे में पोएम, ग्लॉसरी एंड डिस्कशन दी. सो उस पर बात कर लेते हैं. ये सिमिलर यहाँ पर चीजें लिखी हुई हैं जो हम पढ़ चुके हैं, ये आप देख लीजिएगा। अच्छा, जो लोटस ईटर्स है ये काफी लेंथी पोएम है, मैं आपको दिखा देती हूँ, लेकिन मैं आपको इसका सिर्फ एक चंक यहाँ से बता रही हूँ ताकि आप उसे हैंडल कर सके। लेट मी शो यू द एक्चुअल पोएम हाउ लेंथी इट इज। लेट मी ओपन इट फर्स्ट। Yes, here we go. Okay, this is the actual poem, The Lotus Eater by Alfred Lord Tennyson. ठीक है, इसमें कैंटोज हैं, कैंटो 1, कैंटो 2। इट्स अ लेंथी पोएम, क्वाइट लेंथी वन, बट जो चंक मैं आपसे शेयर कर रही हूँ आपने बस उतना ही समझना है, राइट। इट्स अ क्वाइट लेंथी पोएम। मैं आपको बताने का रीजन यही है ताकि आपको पता चले। हम इसमें से जो लाइंस पढ़ेंगे वो मैं आपसे शेयर कर देती हूँ अभी। लेट मी शेयर द स्क्रीन और उन्हीं लाइंस पर हम डिस्कशन करेंगे। जी, ओके। The lotus blossoms below the barren peak. The lotus blows by every winding creek. All day the wind breathes low with mellower tone through every hollow cave and alley loom. Round and round the spicy downs the yellow lotus dust and blown. We have had enough of action and of motion we rolled to starboard, rolled to larboard when the surge was seething free. आप देख रहे हैं कुछ वर्ड्स हाईलाइटेड है, बोल्ड में है, उनके मीनिंग इस स्टडी में दिए हुए हैं। Where the wallowing monster spouted his foam fountains in the sea, let us swear on oath and keep it with an equal mind. In the hollow lotus land to live and lie reclined on the hills of the gods like together careless of mankind. For they lie beside their nectar, and the bowls are hurled. Far below them is the valleys, in the valleys, and the clouds are lightly curled. Round their golden houses girdled with the gleaming world, where they smile in secret, looking over wasted lands. Blight and famine, plague and earthquake, roaring deeps and fiery sands, clanging fights, flaming towns, and sinking ships are praying hands. अच्छा, ये जो वर्ड्स इस वक्त इन दो लाइंस में इस कपलेट में हाईलाइटेड हैं, डेफिनेटली दे डेफिनेटली लाउडली टेल्स अस अबाउट द विक्टोरियन एज, जहाँ पर बहुत सारे चेंजिंग फाइट्स थे, फ्लेमिंग क्राउन्स थे, फैमिन्स थे। फैमिन को उर्दू में कहत कहते हैं, प्लेग्स थे, अर्थक्वेक थे, तो हर किस्म का अप एंड डाउन वहां पर। जैसे मैंने आपको बताया विक्टोरियन एज वाज द बेस्ट ऑफ बेस्ट एंड वर्स्ट ऑफ वर्स्ट टाइम्स। तो अपनी पोएम में उसने दो लाइनों में काफी कुछ कवर कर दिया। बट दिस स्माइल दे फाइंड अ म्यूजिक सेंटर्ड इन अ doleful song, steaming up lamentation, an incident tale of wrong, like a tale of little meaning, though the words are strong, chanted from ill-used race of men that cleave the soil. Sow the seed and reap the harvest with enduring toil, storing yearly little dews of wheat and wine and oil, till they perish and they suffer some twist whispered down in hell, suffer endless anguish. Others in Elysian valleys dwell, resting weary limbs at last on beds of abstrail. Surely, surely, slumber is more sweet than toil, the shore, than labor in the deep mid-ocean, wind and the wave and the oar, or rest ye brother mariners, we will not wander more. तो यहाँ पे वर्ड्स के मीनिंग्स लिखे हुए हैं, वो आप देख सकते हैं। डिस्कशन पढ़ लेते हैं। In this poem, the reader is greatly impressed with the musical beauty that Tennyson has created from the sensitive use of arrangement of words. It is a perfect fusion of sound and sense. By skillful use of contrast, the poet is able to evoke both present serene location of the mariners and their turbulent past. At the very outset, we are told the lotus flower that blossoms everywhere on the island, the yellow lotus dust that is blown in the breeze, has a magical sporific effect on the sailors. The mariners then contrast this with their earlier life of toil on board the ship when through calm and storm all they did was work, remembering their earlier hardships. यानी whatever they went through. Mariners कौन होते हैं जो boats में होते हैं, they have to go through waters, and of course पानी जो है एक natural resource है, और definitely sometimes it can get out of your hand and you have to survive it. You have to go through a lot of other things. Sometimes you can be short of food, you can get short of many other essential things that are needed. So सारी hardship जो है वो उसकी यहाँ पे वो बात कर रहा है. Remembering their earlier hardships, the mariners exhorts each other to swear unanimously to stay on this enchanted island. Living here would be nothing short of godlike, just as the gods lie together in their gleaming about drinking nectar and playfully and carelessly hurling balls of disaster of the world. So they would live here unmindful of others. So यहाँ पर वो एक रेफरेंस दे रहा है कि जैसे जब अर्थ पे दुनिया पे कोई मसला आता है तो डेफिनेटली बहुत सारे पर्सपेक्टिव्स हो सकते हैं. पर्सपेक्टिव क्या हो सकते हैं कि गॉड इज पनिशिंग अस, गॉड इज letting us go through hardships or making us go through the hardships and etc. And he's sitting there in idle manner and everything. So यहाँ पे वो कह रहा है कि जिस तरह से गॉड्स इन सारे chaoses में भी केयरलेसली नेक्टर के पास प्लेफुली ड्रिंक करते हुए एंजॉय करते हुए दुनिया के डिजास्टर से दूर रह के बैठ जाते हैं. अब ये गॉड हमारे वाला गॉड नहीं है. इट्स ऑल दोज गॉड्स जो ये रेफर करते हैं क्रिश्चियनिटी में एंड अदरवाइज. एज यू नो, टेनिसन ने ग्रीक मिथोलॉजी भी पढ़ रखी है, लैटिन मिथोलॉजी भी पढ़ रखी है, तो उससे भी ये रेफरेंस है. सो ही सेज दैट हम मैरिनर्स, ये जो पोएटिक पर्सोना है, वो कहते हैं हम भी अनमाइंडफुल ऑफ अदर्स इसी तरह से अपना एंजॉय करेंगे. दे देन dwell upon the futility of human life. Men on earth sweat and toil throughout their lives and barely manage to make ends meet. And yet finally they die. Some go to hell, suffer endlessly, while others go to heaven, and the rest, their tried bodies are Elysian fields. तो वो कहता है कि कुछ लोग जन्नत में जा रहे हैं, कुछ दोज़ख में जा रहे हैं, और कुछ इन fields में चले जाते हैं. What life would mariners choose? They would rather be on shore than toil on the seas. They have also concluded that sleep is preferable to toil. Oh, rest ye, brother mariners, we will not wander more. The theme of the poem is human life is futile, and if the end of all toil is to be the grave, then given the option, one should choose a life of rest and peace rather than duty and hardships. What would you choose? Would you choose hardship, हार्ड वर्क, या आप भी बस बैठ के एंजॉय करना चाहेंगे? व्हाट काइंड ऑफ लाइफ डू यू वांट? यू डोंट वांट अ लाइफ, यू आर नॉट लिसनिंग. दोनों रीजंस हो सकते हैं. एनीवे, सो यहाँ पे पोएटिक पर्सोना एज अ थीमेटिक. जी, somebody wants to say something? No? Okay. So the theme of the poem is human life is futile, and one should actually rest in peace and enjoy rather than be very responsible about their duty and hardships. This is exemplified in the mariner's debate about whether to return home or whether to stay on the enchanted Lotus Island and live a life of idyllic peace and restfulness. So एक comparison है कि जो लोग जमीन पे यानी अर्थ पे रहते हैं, जो उनकी लाइफ डिफरेंट है, और जो सी में रहते हैं उनकी लाइफ डिफरेंट है. The debate is resolved in the final line when the mariner decides to stay on in that paradise. The end of this poem is quite different from the Ulysses, as we shall see. As you have seen, this poem is a masterpiece piece of sheer poetry that results from flexible and free handling of the meter. It is written in iambic lines. ये structure के बारे में बात हो रही है. For example, we have had enough of action and of motion wheel. Why does Tennyson do it? he adopts the rhythm to suit to the sense of what he's saying in that particular line. For example, when he talks about the mariner's life of toil, the lines become quick paced, but when reference is made to the indolent life of the island, the pace slackens, becoming more serene. Now, looking at the opening lines of the sections, we can definitely appreciate the onomatopoeic excellence that has been given to these lines by the poet. The aim is to definitely evoke sounds of the words and the feeling of the sensual life. And as I quote, the lotus blossom below the barren peak, the lotus blows by every winding creek. And all day the wind bathes slow with the mellow tone through every hollow cave and alley lone. Round and round the sparsely dance the yellow lotus dust is blown. ठीक है? The smooth flow of the words heightens the feeling of imagined peace and languor. You must have noticed the predominance of the consonants I and B. ठीक है? Changing fights, the flaming towns and the sinking ships and praying hands. These two lines, they are giving a contrast of the flowing tone in the vigorous moment of. This gives you an idea of Tennyson's technique of versification. With alliteration and assonance combined with rhythm, the verbal music is perfectly adapted to poet's tone and exotic scene. Okay, so this was a chunk of the poem for you. I hope you have understood some of it. The Lotus Eaters. If you have any questions, please go ahead and ask. If you don't, then I would like to share some more points about the Lotus Eater with you. Okay, iska holistic meaning kya hai? Let me share it. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, please go ahead and ask. Okay, I found a paper which is only one, नहीं, 2 to 3 pages. जो आप पढ़ लेंगे तो और clarity आपके mind में आ जाएगी. I'll share this paper with you, of course. The Lotus Eaters are a study in perspective of Victorian society. Let's talk about this. This paper illustrates and essays the uncertainty of time of Victorian era as presented by Tennyson in his poem The Lotus Eater. Now, this research will decipher the main components and characteristics of life in then Victorian period, like Victorian consciousness, advancement of science, lack of responsibility, fragile concept of faith, and the treatment of nature. ये कुछ important words हैं जो आपको definitely आपके analysis में इस्तेमाल करने हैं. और keywords हैं uncertainty, gullibility, Tennyson, and loss of faith. The arena which Tennyson portrayed his poem is brimful of uncertainty, gullibility, unpredictability, albeit scholastically and with an acute pen of artistic picture. ठीक है, यहाँ पे introduction दिया हुआ है, ये आप देख सकते हैं. For example, Edmund Blunter aptly said of Tennyson, the spokesman of the intellectual life of his time as Pope was of Augustan age. फिर एक और reference दिया हुआ है. We can note the words from Mr. John Collier, not Tennyson's most vocal, minded critic, in the first year of Victorian's reign, the way in which modern thought became coincident with the poetic feeling and how it was Tennyson who first became conscious of it. Like हमने शुरुआत में बात की थी कि definitely वो sensitive भी है लेकिन वो पर्सनल नहीं होता है और बहुत ही फिलोसफिकल और बहुत ही रैशनल रहने की कोशिश करता है. Victorian consciousness in the poem Tennyson explore a typical of Victorian age. It appraises the Victorian consciousness. The poem foregrounds the rookie experiences and questions aroused of that time, existential crisis, futile struggle of humanity. Through the poem and the echoes that we can see in the song of or the chunk that we have discussed, that there is a philosophical and scholastic questions, and it utilizes the doubts of people of that era. Of course, many people had many doubts, तो उन doubts को contrast and compare करता है. Tennyson expressed an approach of elocution to highlight the intrigue, smoke screen concept of age. He plunged the depth of poetical mastery to give sonorous to the national consciousness of Victorian poetry. Carlyle defines the ideal poet's sensibility not as a twisted, poor, convex, concave mirror reflecting all subjects with own convexities and concavities, but a perfectly level mirror. फिर देखिए लाइंस देखिए, थर्ड स्टेंजा की लाइंस दी हुई, ये आप यहाँ से पढ़ सकते हैं. डेफिनेटली यू विल अंडरस्टैंड. उसके बाद furthermore, if we move forward, you will see the Victorian crisis is aptly presented in the poem. Mariners reflect the collective and holistic approach of the people. जैसे अभी हमने लाइंस पढ़ी ना, जहाँ पर लिखा हुआ है कि we will be as idle, we will enjoy and rest like gods when they are playful and they are nearby the nectar. So my fellow mariners, do not panic, we'll just rest. तो एक जो hopelessness है, एक जो futile future है, उसको बहुत अच्छे से यहाँ पर डिपेक्ट किया गया है, कलेक्टिवली एंड हॉलिस्टिकली. तो ये पेपर मैं आपका वहां पे पेस्ट कर देती हूँ लिंक, ताकि आपके पास ये रहे, इसको भी आपने पढ़ लेना है. ठीक है बेटे, एनी क्वेश्चंस? इफ यू हैव एनी क्वेश्चंस प्लीज गो अहेड एंड आस्क. जी, एनी क्वेश्चंस? चलें. Okay, there were some of you which who were not able to actually join the class in time, and then most of you are not listening. So I would like to announce once again that you will have a quiz from these poems that we have discussed after midterm. We have talked about Robert Browning and we have talked about Lord Tennyson. Of course, कल नहीं हो सकती, लेकिन next week Monday को you will have a quiz from these two. So आपने हर perspective से बेटे पढ़ कर आना है. You are going to study from the perspective of reference to the context. You are going to study from the perspective of essay type question, any critical appreciation. जितना कुछ भी पॉसिबली आप इसके बारे में पढ़ सकते हैं, वो आपने पढ़ के आना है. लेट मी अनाउंस इट एज वेल. अगले मंडे को बेटे डेट मैं देख लेती हूँ, बताती हूँ. एक सेकेंड. जी, any questions बेटे? If you don't have any questions, so that will be all for today. आप इसको खुद भी पढ़ेंगे तो काफी हद तक समझ आएगा और आप इसे समझ पाएंगे। आपकी क्विज की अनाउंसमेंट मैंने कर दी है, तो कम प्रिपेयर्ड इन मंडेज क्लास। कल हम इंशाल्लाह स्टार्ट करेंगे मैथ्यू आर्नल्ड को। विल बी टॉकिंग अबाउट another Victorian poet whose name is Matthew Arnold, and his poem is called Dover Beach, which is comparatively an easier poem to understand. So we'll talk about that. आप पहले से भी पढ़कर आना चाहें तो पढ़कर आ सकते हैं. Something must have been posted about it in your Google Classroom already.